Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Insight Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Cobb, coming to you from our stage here in Arlington, Virginia. And today I have this wonderful guest. She is the author of The Space to Exhale, which is this really cool book about owning your health, owning your mental well-being, taking the time to pause, because Lord knows in this day and age, we could definitely use some more pausing. The author of this book is Lisa Hurley. She is a New Yorker. She is vibrant. She's a lot of fun. Lisa, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much, Justin, for having me. I am excited to be here and dive into what I know is going to be a juicy conversation,
I'm here
an interesting conversation. So thank you.
Yes, Lisa, because let's break this down. You know this, and I'm sure audiences who are tuning in are also aware of this. There's a lot going on in the world right now.
Isn't there? Understatement. I mean, I don't know, honestly, how anybody is coping, because it seems like if we're living in some sort of bizarre dystopian horror movie, I don't know, there are a lot of like dark genres, film noir, like I don't know what is happening, existential, end of days.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
There's a lot going on, and I don't know how anybody is coping, to be honest.
Mhm.
Because even people that I don't necessarily agree with ideologically, shall we say, the human being in me can see from their perspective, which I don't necessarily agree with, but in their minds, they're also going through stuff, right?
Mhm.
Might not have any foundation or basis in terms of my personal opinion, but for them, their realities, they're going through stuff. Certainly people like you and myself,
Yes.
right? On the right side of history, we are also going through stuff. And so everybody is just in a state of perpetual fatigue, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, all of them. And shoot, another F word, but I'm not going to say it.
Yes.
Right?
Right. I tell people that it's a scary world when you end up on the same side as Ron Paul or any person who happens to be ideologically opposed to you. It's like,
Yeah,
that's how you know it's really got into some extreme measures.
exactly.
And you know what? I also look at this on the bright side too, because this situation is reminding people, regardless of their backgrounds,
Mhm.
that hey, we are all more human, and that we're all human than what we think the other
Mhm.
is. And perhaps the problem wasn't it wasn't that the divide like divisions are going to come and go.
Right.
The problem is that we let the divisions fracture us to this level
Mhm.
instead of learning how to see each other for who we are as people. And I love your book because the space to exhale there. For those of you who are not aware, some of the context, I actually met Lisa through Aubrey Ralph. Shout out to Aubrey.
Hey, Abria. She's
Yes,
amazing.
yeah, she is.
I call her my niecey, because she and I have basically adopted each other. So I'm auntie and she's niecey.
I love that. That's
Yes.
so cool. But The Space to Exhale was actually written out of a period in your life where you had to really cope and reconcile a lot of not just physical hardship, but a lot of mental, emotional, spiritual hardship as well.
Mhm.
There, can you take us back? We're gonna time travel.
Okay.
And we're gonna just get a sense of what was going on through
Mhm.
you, in you. What were you
Mhm.
experiencing? What brought this book about?
Um, more recently, what part of what inspired it was a state of complete overwhelm and burnout and exhaustion, and sort of existential despair that we alluded to a bit just now about what is happening, what was happening in the world. It's still happening. It's gotten worse. So that is part of what inspired it. Just this feeling that if this is how I am feeling, there's a likelihood that other people are feeling this way too. And I always immediately go to, okay, well, how can I help myself and others? How can I help myself? That might be a whole nother podcast. As far as I know, there are not multiple of me, but hey, who knows? But yes,
Hey,
right? I mean, hey, we're accepting.
like
We accept all of us,
that could be about shadow work and like this.
right?
Oh my God, all
We can
that.
talk about it all.
All.
I said I don't know, but I'm telling it would definitely explain a few things. But side note, seriously, yeah, I was thinking if I'm going through it, other people are going through it, and so therefore, as a Reiki master, somebody who is very empathetic, I always think, okay, how can I help other people, right? And everyone, I think everyone has a calling in life. And I do believe that writing this book was part of my calling. Now, prior to what I just referred to, the recent burnout, exhaustion, and so on, if you go back to 2020 and the racial reckoning and George Floyd and everything that was happening and all of the police brutality, which was nothing new, but came to a head for whatever reason around that time. Well, not for whatever reason, because of George Floyd around that time. And so I started my part of my path, another part of my calling as an activist. And so I've been doing that work since 2020. You know, as we're recording this is 2025, and activism is hard work. It is fulfilling, it is necessary, but it is not easy work or light work. And so that took a lot out of me. And I kept thinking, I'm like, I want to do this. I believe in it, but there's a part of me, a little girl inside that's like, I just want to play and be happy and put on pretty dresses, play with my dolls, whatever, like not literally, but you understand what I mean? Just
Yeah.
have more fun, be more relaxed, do less. I felt like there's all of this heaviness in the world and we need more lightness. And we do need some space to exhale. We need time to relax. And so that is part of what inspired the book. I'm like, again, if I'm feeling this way because I have a 9 to 5 and 10 other side hustles and I'm going all the time and the world is burning around us, right? The world is just a ongoing, ever-changing dumpster fire, right?
Oh yeah.
New episode every week, but oh my goodness. And yeah, I was just like, I don't want to be in this world dealing with this heaviness 24/7. There has to be an alternative. There has to be some respite. It can't only be about work and producing and hitting deadlines and doing all of that. That can't be all there is to life. So get off the treadmill, take a pause, step back, and see what else is out there.
Your response is reminding me of that song, Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire."
That is exactly it. Because we did it.
Yes.
I will not torture you and your listeners by attempting to sing it. That is not my ministry, unfortunately. I wish it were, but I'm not a singer. But I love that song.
It is such a good song, but I think it speaks to what you're just talking about, where, and it's not just you and it's not just me, but I feel like many of us tuning in relate to that level of the burnout, the exhaustion, and it comes from just having to carry so much at any given point in our quote unquote modern society. And let's be honest, like, we're burned out because we're not living as connected to each other anymore. We're not as connected to the planet as we were. Like, I come from a family of farmers, and they were literally, like, at least generations ago, they were farming from like the garden to the table, and they would spend an entire season just canning food so that way they could get ready for the winter and they would have the food ready to go. and they literally built like customs and cultures and everything around that, like practices.
Mhm.
And now with the, don't get me wrong, like having grocery stores and whatnot is like really convenient, especially because farming is a lot of work. But what we're also missing out on that we never actually took the time to balance and replace is more culture, more connection, and more just ability to like create space for ourselves and
And
all of.
community.
Exactly. And the great at sale, I love what you're doing with this is because you're basically through your own experience, you talk about like just coming back into yourself and recognizing that you are not the noise that is going on. Because in audiences, I'm going to be real with you all for a moment. The
Mhm.
noise is still going to be happening. It was happening long before you got here. It's going to keep on going long after you're gone.
Yes.
So don't internalize like all of that stuff, the saviorism and all that, because like that's only going to burn you out and it's going to get you in trouble with people if you don't do it right. So ground yourself, and by that, come back
Mhm.
and be sure to honor your experience now in this moment, because if you we're in a marathon, we're not in a race, so
Yes.
it's
Yes.
okay. At least,
Amen to that. I love your reminder there too, for people to come into themselves, because
mhm.
you're 100% right. The noise is always going to exist. It just changes form. That we did not start the fire, but we are affected by it. And so I think that is one of the reasons for the global feeling of overwhelm and exhaustion that we're all experiencing. And there are theories, homeopathy, for example, exists because there's, the hair of the dog theory, where you can fight fire with fire. I guess that's a little bit of how, what do you call those? Oh my gosh, I hate when this happens. Do you know my brain? Does this happen to you, where your brain just like glitches out in the middle of you trying to find a word?
Yeah, all the time.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely hate it. And this happens a lot, actually. So we're going to meander a bit, but I think that's okay. So I think I have a traumatic brain injury, and I will explain. Because I was in a bad car accident a few years back and hit my head really hard as part of it. I was a pedestrian and got hit by a car. And so ever since then, I noticed an immediate reduction in the ability to do certain things. And this is one of them, where it's a combination of the autism, ADHD, and having hit my head really hard. And so there are times where I literally cannot remember. Like, I might remember the concept of wet, but
Mhm.
not be able to remember the word water,
Mhm.
things like that.
Oh wow.
Anyway, yeah. So I think the word that I was searching for was vaccines, but we'll see. Right. So there's that, like, vaccination theory. You add a little bit more of what you're going through, and then it will help. And that obviously has some scientific, basis and works for certain things. But there's also the theory that sometimes you cannot fight fire with fire. And so I am suggesting, yes, the world is burning all around us, but this is not the time for all of us to continue fighting fire with fire, because we've been doing that. And that's why we're all burned out and exhausted. So I'm
Hmm.
not, my recommendation is not to not do anything at all. That's not what I'm saying. Things need to be done, work needs to be done. People need to live in their purpose and fulfill their divine mission on the earth. All of that needs, and that is going to take work. But work does not have to be omnipresent, and it does not have to be constant. And
Mm-mm.
so I am saying, just take a breath. Take a breath. Go inside, as you recommended earlier. Go inside yourself and really start asking questions about, is this the life that you want for yourself, that you always dreamed about? Did anybody say, when I grow up, I want to I'm trying to think of something. I can think of something for my own life.
Brought to you, each one an expedition and flavor. It brings zest, it brings zing, and is rooted in culture and connection and community. What are you waiting for? The audience is tuning in to get a special 10% discount code INSIGHT at checkout with their online purchase. Experience the flavor.
So I'm a writer. I've always been a writer. But I do remember working on a project. I think I mentioned it in my book, and it was writing copy for detergent, right? And I remember I was like, I don't think God created me to write about detergent. Like this this was not the plan, right? But not about detergent. No, absolutely not. Right. And so sometimes a lot of us we find ourselves in similar situations where you wake up one day and look around, you're like, I don't even know. I don't know who I am. I barely remember how I got here, because we're just on the treadmill of life, putting one heads bowed, either just looking down because we're tired or looking at our phones, and just walking one foot in front of the other, not consciously thinking about where we're going.
You ever see the rat cartoon where the rats are all like, they crowd in the subway and they're on their phones, they're slugging their coffee, and they're going to the office and they're chained to their desk, whether it's at work or at school, and then they come back and like they're just like sad and depressed, and then they repeat it again. Yeah,
I have not seen it, but I relate to it. But I'm gonna have to look for it now that you've mentioned it, because I relate.
It's a black and white cartoon too, which makes it all the more like wild, to say the least, because they really put things in like the grayscale. But a lot of what you're talking about is so relevant to what happens in corporate America, nonprofits, the government space. Well, what's left of the government space anyway. There, shout out to you all, like you federal workers out there, like props to you all.
Yes.
Like, and those of you who didn't make the cuts, you know what? You were too good for them anyway.
There you go.
You were too good for them anyway. Like it's like
they don't deserve you.
Yep, you're still worthy. You're still valid. And hey, Oprah reinvented herself after getting fired from a job. And I'm not saying you have to be Oprah, but I'm saying that anyone can reinvent.
Yes.
After that.
Yes.
And a lot of what you're talking about, Lisa, is about reinvention. Because here you were like you mentioned, you were writing copy for detergents. Doing all these other things. What was the journey like for you in actually taking ownership of your story? Like, when did you really start to come to realization, like, this is not what I want the epitome of my life to be? There's got to be, I want to do something more aligned with my purpose.
Thank you for asking that. Actually, that moment that I spoke about, that was definitely one of them, where I had a brief moment of super consciousness, I call it, because it was almost, I was in a meeting and it's almost like it faded away, like scenes in a movie where all of a sudden the character breaks that wall with the camera and speaks directly to the audience, or they're out of their body looking down at, oh my gosh, is this what's happening? And they tell you what's going on in the scene. It felt kind of like that, where I was almost like out of my body and realizing, oh my gosh, this is not good at all. Another moment like that was actually years prior. Before we started recording, folks, we were talking about having lived in Philadelphia, deep in the country, and which I did, right?
No.
And I used to at that time have a job in Manhattan. So you would know very well, I would hop on the Beaver bus in the wee hours of the morning when it was still dark outside and do like a 2.5 hour commute in and then back. And so you're leaving home in the dark, you're getting back home in the dark, and literally all you have time for is to come back home, have some dinner, go to sleep, and start it all over again. And at some point I was driving back home. And as I got off the bus, got into my car, drove home. And as I was pulling up toward my home, I could see it in the distance. It was already dark outside and I could see it. I was getting back home at like, I don't know, 8:30 at night. And I was like, this is not it. This is not it. Big, beautiful, it was in the country, little McMansion houses, like, they're building now. So it was one of those, right? Nothing special for the area, but, a nice sized house, beautiful car, great job in the city. And I was like, oh, no. They have sold us a lie, right?
Yeah, and you
so
can't
that was
even
one of those moments.
you can't even enjoy either the country or the city because you're not in either long
You're
enough.
not in either. That is it. That is it. Because something I really love that you said earlier was about you encourage people to get into themselves. And I really love the way that you phrased that. Because you have to be with yourself, in yourself, right? You have to be in the present moment and consciously create and curate what you want your life to look like. So bit by bit, there were other moments like that, but I finally decided, okay, some of life has happened to you, right? Some of it has been, flawed building of your own creation. Right. I'm out there building with no architecture degree. I'm like, okay, maybe you need to study how to build your life. And so that is part of the motivation behind why I started the Great Exhale, my community for Black women, and why I wrote Space to Exhale, because we need to be able to get within ourselves. That's why I recommend meditation and mindfulness work and breath work and doing the inner work, because as within, so without. As within, so without, as above, so below. And that is not even, if you don't believe in God or a higher power, think of quantum physics. Same thing, right? It's the same thing.
Well, that's the thing. I tell people all the time that the inner world is a reflection of the outer world. So if your outer world is on fire, what is going on in your internal? And there is no coincidence that we are witnessing environmental collapse, political tensions, and one of the worst cases of mental health. Not just in the United States, but it's all over the world.
It's globally. It is globally. I wish I had done some research on it for my book. Of course, like I said, recall is sometimes an issue. So of course I'm blanking on the reference, but I think it might have been the World Health Organization that did a study, possibly back in 2022. I'll have to give you that information. But basically, yes, what you said is correct. They did a study and there is a global mental health crisis. And even though people are no longer as concerned about COVID directly, there have been lasting effects from everybody basically trying to survive the pandemic. So there's mental health effects from that they don't just stop. When it's not somebody like turns the switch and says, okay, I've turned off the COVID switch and I've also turned off the mental health issue switch. That's not how it works. And so people are still having adverse mental health experiences even now, years later.
Where do you think it stems from? Because all these things were happening before COVID. So do you have any thoughts on that?
In a negative way, I think it was like, how you put salt in food to enhance or bring out the flavors. So in a negative way, COVID was like some salt, and it brought out so many socio and geopolitical issues and personal issues and community issues that maybe had been brewing and bubbling under the surface, and it brought them up to the surface, sometimes in like volcano-like effect. I think that is part of what happened. And so when you have a pandemic, and there have always been health inequities, and you throw in the salt, quote unquote, of the pandemic, it is going to increase all of the health inequities, increase them and increase the experience of them and expose them to public light. So I think that happened, but in every aspect of life that you can think of. So that's what COVID did. It was just like a big boulder thrown into the ocean, and it just caused a tsunami. Yeah.
And speaking from your own personal experience as well, because let's state the obvious. You are this, and especially today, you are this well garbed, head
Thank you.
wrap, all of this. I love the color, by the way,
Thank
but
you.
like beautiful Black woman who's
Thank you.
witnessed and seen some things,
Mhm.
and you and I have spoken about this before. You talk about how there are just not a lot of spaces for Black women to do a lot of that internal work that you're speaking about. And the wild thing is that a lot of Black women, especially within our movements, within within a lot of our spaces, they're the ones who've done the internal work and so have like this intuition where they see all these patterns and how it impacts us there. But it's one thing to see it, and it's another thing to say, okay, I'm gonna do my part to help to create a space where other women such as myself can come together and do this. What was that journey like for you?
You know, part of something I write about in the book, it's there's a section called Know Yourself. It's divided into three sections: Know Yourself, Love Yourself, Be Yourself. And so in the Know Yourself, I encourage people to go back, like think back to who you were as a child, what your innate personality was like, your natural personality before the world maybe tried to change it or affected you. And when I think back, like I've always had I call it the golden retriever aspect to my personality. You know, I just want everybody to be happy, and can we just play and get along? And oh my gosh, is everything amazing? Oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
It's time for walkies, right? So,
Yeah,
right, and then aren't golden retrievers amazing? And
they
then
are. I love them. They're so
I'm
cute.
right. They're the happiest dogs. And so I have that aspect to my personality for sure. And just wanting people to smile and be happy and play and frolic. And I've also have always been very empathetic. You know, I remember once I didn't even realize I was doing it at the time, or I was being watched. But it was a group of us, like in a pool somewhere. It was like a group trip, and some little a bug of some, I don't know, some kind of insect flew into the pool and was having trouble. So I scooped it out gently and took it over and said, "Are you okay?" You know, like I'm that person, right? And so I feel that way about human beings. And I just want us all, I genuinely do. I want us all to, can't we all just get along and be happy and feel better? And that's always my goal. Is how can we feel better, and what can I do? Because having thoughts about it, you know, thoughts are important. Actions, you know, I really, really believe in actions. And so that's why I was like, okay, what can I do? And maybe I can't affect the entire planet, but I do have a sphere of influence where I am. So I will start a community, and that will be part of me extending who I am as a human being to help make just a little corner of the world a bit better. So that's where that comes from.
I love that. And a lot of it, what you're doing is, and I tell people this too, it's sometimes the most revolutionary thing that you can do is moving the things that you can move in your own life.
Yes.
A lot of people get overwhelmed because it's like, oh, I don't have the energy to take on the big bear, like the government, or like, and I'm like, well, one, like if you're trying to take on that by yourself, like good luck,
Good
because
luck. Exactly.
what you can do is you can focus on like the things that are within your power.
Mhm.
Like if you and you're resourceful, you can find anything, like whatever it is that you feel called to do, you'll find a way to make it happen one way or
Mhm.
another.
Yeah, you can find a way to make things happen.
Mhm.
I do believe that we're in a crisis, another kind of crisis, which again you alluded to earlier, a crisis of a lack of community, a lack of genuine community. We've moved away from having. I remember back in the day, people would have compounds or something similar to that,
Mhm.
right? Or families would just live, you live here, your cousins are across the street, your auntie is down the street. So families would live close together, or alternatively, all multi generations in the same house. And there was at one point in the world more focus on community. And we've moved away from that and become hyper individualistic. And individualism has its place, but I believe it has also contributed largely to this burnout and this feeling of disconnection, because community connection actually helps build personal connection. And people often think, well, it's called self-esteem and it's called I don't know, self-support and all of that. And yeah. That's important. But guess who helps build self-esteem? Your community.
Mhm.
Your community helps build that. Yes, some of it is your responsibility, but who doesn't benefit and feel better from, if you're in help and if you need help or you're in a crisis, your community comes in and helps you. They don't, you're not, hopefully you're not just there, lying on the floor and there's nobody to help you, right? You need folks to help. You and I briefly talked about family. um I personally have experienced like having to step in and step up, and sometimes your family members are going through something, or and they might need you more than usual in a given season. Then the family and the community surround that person
Mhm.
and helps that person to then, and that is what helps them to become more self-sufficient, not
Yeah,
just leaving them there to scrabble through the grapple on their hands and knees, right? So yeah, more community is the solution to many things, and and a community mindset. So for example, take healthcare. If we really had a community mindset in this country, there's no way the healthcare system would be set up the way that it is,
Mhm.
because it is set up to, not in all cases, I have benefited from medical care. Let me just say that I love my doctors, but in many cases, it's set up to impoverish people, and in a lot of cases, actually, sometimes make them worse. That is another topic for another day. But if there were a focus on community, then the healthcare system, I believe, would be set up so that, okay, let us make it easy for people to access, to get the care they want, to get the medication that they need, to get the surgeries that they require. Let us not charge $5 million for, medicine that folks need for on the daily, like for diabetes or whatever it happens to be, right? Let us make all of that accessible and affordable. And as a government, be part of our the proletariat, be a part of the community, as
Mhm.
opposed to being distanced from it and making rules and laws and sending down edicts that actually harm people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And showing up in whatever ways that we can, large and small,
Mhm.
and not worrying about being perfect, but not even worrying, just being more concerned about living genuinely, excuse me,
Mhm.
with who you are, and
Yes.
like that in itself, like would move so many mountains.
Mhm.
If people, if we collectively all realize that, like I tell people that kindness is like the heavy lifter. Like if we
Yes,
like
I love that phrase.
if like literally like because we talk about how we don't have the community, and what is one of the groundworks of community, it's that mutual understanding that you all are in that together, and that comes
Mhm.
from like kindness and understanding. It comes from network. It comes from a
Mhm.
relationship, and there are definitely days where like people in our community are going through it, and
Yeah,
they're having a rough day. You
yeah.
know what? It's okay. They can have a rough day. We all have rough days. So like, not an excuse to be a jerk, but you know what? You have a rough day. The community is there to say, hey, now,
Mhm.
like, what's all that about?
Right.
We
And
know.
also not judge, and everything has nuance, right? There's nuance and everything, but in general, like, I see what you are saying, and part of that also is not judging the person, but dealing with the behavior,
Mhm.
right? And not throwing away people because, as you said, they have a bad day, or they're, one morning out of 365 they're cranky, and then you judge them for that one morning, like if they weren't
Right,
absolute sunshine and light the other 364 days. But we
right.
want to throw away people for this one day, right?
Mhm.
So I definitely see that, and I have not experienced it personally, but I've heard that there are cultures and communities in which, when there is that person in the community that's like, okay, all right, you need to calm your behind down,
Yeah.
right, and start acting right. But they gather them in a circle, put the person who needs that intervention in the middle of a circle. The community encircles them and tells them good things about themselves.
Yeah, that's
So
so
it's a treatment of love, not of condescension, not of disconnection, not of judgment, not of punishment, but of warmth and love and acceptance, and seeing that this person is more than their bad moments. And I absolutely love that.
yes. And I wanted to ask this question too, because we look at ourselves, and I feel like we have all these versions of ourselves that we aspire towards of what we wanted to. And I always love to ask this question because we, especially when we're young, we have these ideas.
Hmm.
The younger version of you comes up to you for advice on how they should navigate. What are you telling them?
How they should navigate what? Like life, or
So, yes.
oh, you're gonna ask the big question. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So the baby me comes up to big me and wants to know how to navigate life. So some of the advice I would give would be, don't listen to them people.
Yes.
Listen to certain people, certain trusted people, but them people, we all know who them people are, right? Don't listen to them people. I would advise her to to look inside more and believe in herself more.
Mhm.
I would tell her that it is possible for all her dreams to come true, and so she can have them uh, earlier and better than she ever could imagine. And so to, you know, follow her heart, follow her heart.
I love that.
That's what I would tell her. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so good. There, Lisa, we are coming up on time. This is
Mhm.
fun. It's so beautiful. But I want to leave the room for you to share more about how audiences can connect with you, how they can read your book, and potentially collaborate with you.
Oh, thank you so much. In terms of where people can connect with me on social media, I am on Instagram at the Lisa Hurley. I think Facebook is the same thing. TikTok is the same thing. My website is spacetoexhalebook.com. My book, Space to Exhale, will be out. It will be on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It already is actually on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop, Goodreads, you name it. It's everywhere. Shout out to Wiley, my publisher, for doing that. We love good distribution. And so it's everywhere. And I do believe it is a book that will help us in these times that we are in now, right?
Mhm.
That is what Space to Exhale is all about. Yes, the world is burning, but you can still find moments of respite and relaxation and goodness and love and joy and frolicking. Frolicking is very, very important, right? You can still find those good moments in life and make it a little lighter. So that's part of what the book is all about. And so go out and support and write reviews, right? Let me know what you're thinking. That's how people can support, purchase the book and write reviews.
I love that. How's that one song go? Puff out your chest, take a deep breath. You're gonna be okay.
Yes,
Take your
exactly.
time, just take your time. You're gonna be
Be
okay.
okay. Exactly. That's it. That's the theme song for the book. You're gonna be okay.
I love it. Lisa, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your work with us.